Emily Higgins, welcome to the Astroben podcast. How are you?
So much, Ben. I'm great. It's nice to see you this morning.
Likewise, likewise. So I thought let's just start with the real basics because I like to think of myself as a little bit tech savvy, but when it comes to things like crypto and Web3, I'm still a little bit of an idiot. So let's start with the basics. What on earth is Web3?
Web3 is a little bit of a moving target, but it is the next phase of the internet, and it really comes down to who owns content and the technology that facilitates that. Web 2 is very much based in selling viewership. You are a viewer. Um, your attention is bought and sold by large companies online that we don't need to mention because we all know. Web3 is really the decentralization of that. It's a shift in the way that we're thinking about who owns content and who makes money on the internet. Um, and the backing is very much through blockchain technology. NFTs are an example of an asset that is embedded on the blockchain. Um, but it essentially means that when you are sharing your content, if it is backed by blockchain technology, you are earning and benefiting from the assets that you share, whether it's photography or fine art or written word or podcasts. Um, there's subscription methods and uh, ownership methods through blockchain technology that allow you to earn a living from the content you put online rather than monetizing your content for somebody else. Does that make sense?
It does make complete sense. I heard the concept of NFTs explained on I think it was on another podcast. As it's not a, you're not buying, if you buy an NFT, you're not buying a picture. It's a sort of smart contract, really. And so an NFT could be anything. Like you could cut up a bit of this podcast and turn it into an NFT, technically.
Absolutely. And when we talk about space, some of the most compelling use cases for space are for ownership of data, and being able to provide transparent, verifiable ownership of assets, whether they're on Earth or in space. So you can really think of them as digital assets in a way, and that can be any media. Of course, in pop culture, we see these JPEGs of apes and cats and all kinds of things, and there's a massive cultural movement behind it, and so that's sort of the perception of what that is. But you're really owning an asset, whether that provides you with membership or real life access. There's amazing use cases for NFT membership or ownership that facilitates access to concerts for artists. So you can just attend, you have the true pass or the true fans pass. You can attend all their concerts. And then not only is it something that you own and it's an asset, but you can resell that. So say you are investing in like a movement or a project or a company or an artist that you love and you believe is going somewhere. Should that happen, then you will actually be able to earn money when you when you resell. You know what I mean? So
Completely. Yeah.
say you bought in on a concert, like a perpetual concert ticket for, I don't know, name your favorite artist, Lady Gaga or Jay-Z back in the day. Imagine what that would sell for now. So it's sort of that idea that you're investing. We don't really like to talk about, as a public company, we don't offer financial advice in any way, shape, or form. But when we talk about the technology itself,
Mm.
it's hard to separate those terms.
Yeah. No, so that makes a lot of sense. So thank you so much for explaining that. So that sort of links us in quite nicely to you basically. So you're director of communications and special projects for Uplift Space. So maybe tell me a bit about Uplift Space and then how that links into Space Plus, which I've only just started hearing about Space Plus. It's gone from me never having heard about it to it being on all my social feeds and everyone's talking about it. So yeah, I'd love to hear, what is Uplift? How did you get involved? And what is Space Plus?
Yeah. Uplift Aerospace is a private aerospace company based out of Park City in Utah. I got involved a few years ago um, through a science communication type of perspective. I actually have a background in marine ecology, and I worked as a researcher for years and slowly became a little bit disenchanted with the pace of academia, sort of the lack of compelling narratives and storytelling that causes people to care about your work. And so I really dove into storytelling media, film, and photography. I did another graduate degree in visual communications. Um, and then I started working in the field, really doing a lot of media production and science communication in a way that really aims to get people to care about the issues that we have on this planet and now the issues that we have as we move forward off of the planet. And so I worked in the oceans for a very long time, and then I slowly moved over to working with Uplift Aerospace, really with the idea of creating a community around what Uplift is trying to do. So Uplift's mission is to create greater access and diversity in space for everybody. And when we talk about Web3 technologies, they are some of the most democratizing tools that allow people to have access to experiences or assets that they otherwise just would never be able to have access to. And that is extremely important because when we think about moving forward into space as a species, that should include all of humanity. It should be just and equitable and diverse and inclusive, to borrow the Jedi term from Dr. Simon Proctor. And that's something that is really, really near and dear to our hearts. So that is why Space Plus came to be. Uplift Aerospace has other projects that branch, building out the infrastructure for culture and commerce in space. That includes developing Web3 technologies that have use cases for space. Space Plus is very much the social infrastructure for culture and commerce in space, a community that is able to participate in aerospace in a way that regular citizens otherwise wouldn't be able to. And we actually have a project building out physical infrastructure for commerce in space. So we are developing lunar concrete and manufacturing technologies for off-Earth manufacturing. So that's Uplift.
That's really cool.
It is really cool. Yeah. And
Yeah.
what's even cooler is that, so yes, we're building this community, but it's very much tethered to what Uplift is doing in real life. And so we are able to provide access to things like our other projects, our lunar, our lunar manufacturing development projects. Of course, that's a bit of a long-term utility for a community, but in the short term, it very much is providing access to space experiences, space products, space networking, and education opportunities for people that otherwise, don't really have a background in aerospace. They just love space. And so, we started with this community. We facilitate membership through NFTs so that you're able to verify that you are a part of this community. And then you can, at a later date, maybe sell the pass or accumulate more NFTs from the project. But what we decided to do was to offer a contracting position for a space flight this year, which we did in May. So we put out a call to our community of NFT holders and asked them to apply to be astronauts. And we got a phenomenal response. So we have in our first collection of NFTs, 1969 NFTs, as a nod to the first year humans were on the moon. And we just got some incredible, incredible responses. We had a third-party panel select 5 finalists. And after the community saw the 5 finalists and they realized, okay, we're voting for one person, they just said, all 5 of these people are incredible. We love how supportive they are of one another. We really want to, send them all to space. Of course, financially as a company, it was like, well, we have one ticket. But we saw the grassroots movement within the community. We saw the potential, and so we decided, you know what, we are going to form an astronaut class, and we're going to train all five as commercial astronauts, and we will work towards um, seeing if there's opportunities to get the other four to space. So Ruben, very much like the Gemini missions, they all have um, their role within the mission, their, potential space flight opportunities. So Ruben will be going to space first. He was the one that was selected by the community, and we are working as a team for opportunities for the other four.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'd heard, yeah, that's great. I mean, I'd heard about, obviously, I'd heard that about Ruben and Mike Mongo. He's a previous guest of the Astroben podcast, so I know Mike. I mean, what a deserved guy as a, he's such a, he definitely ticks all the boxes as someone that's sort of obsessed with space and will definitely carry the baton for the excitement of what a trip to space would give someone. So the barrier for entry, so the whole idea of democratizing access to space is that the idea is that anyone could buy an NFT and then they can be in that community. And the odds are pretty good. So if you said 1969 NFTs were minted, and then say all five people do go to space, that's a 1 in 400 chance, which is dramatically better odds than lots of other competitions and incentives that are going on in the moment.
Yeah.
How does that work financially? Is it just because it it just seems like I don't know how is that possible? Is it because there's a very clever sort of uh, back end to it that you know means that it's monetarily possible? How does that work?
Yeah, so the way that NFTs are set up, you have to buy them. So they're essentially kind of a product that you sell as a company, but you also have secondary sales on NFTs if you choose. So every time they're sold or resold, there is a portion that goes to the artist or the company um, that produced them. And so, they are a little bit of a funding mechanism. However, as a company, we do have other revenue streams, right? So, um, plus with the formation of an astronaut class, with the media exposure that is planned throughout astronaut training, there's a lot of sponsorship opportunities, and we're very excited to be pursuing quite a few of those at the moment. So, I mean, NFTs themselves are a funding mechanism, and that is how we secured the first space flight. And we are working to fundraise some more to send the rest of them to space.
Amazing.
Um, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it is democratized in the way that the barrier to entry, like there's no qualifications to purchase an NFT.
Mm,
Anyone around the world that has the funds. Obviously, there is a very heavy lean towards the Western world in NFT communities at the moment. That is changing quite a bit. There's a lot of movements within crypto and in uh, countries around the world. Crypto is still pretty volatile. It's still pretty
of
new.
course.
And
Yeah.
I mean, there's certainly a lot of criticism. Although I think it's today, actually, I believe that we're having the Ethereum merger, which means Ethereum is making massive steps to become carbon neutral, which I think hopefully will be a bit of a game changer in terms of perception of crypto and how it's used around the world. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you have a crypto wallet, we're happy to walk through helping people buy NFTs. It's a little bit scary, I think, the first time you do it, but um, it's really a very, I don't know, freeing technology. And I've walked
Yeah.
lots of family members through buying them. It's not super complicated.
So you have I think you still have NFTs on sale on OpenSea Plus. So Launch Pass is an NFT you can buy. So does that if you buy the NFT, do you also get a ticket to see a physical launch? So to see um to see Ruben and the community go up on the first flight. Is that part of the access that it gets you? So you get the sort of digital launch and then also see the physical one as well.
In a way, yeah, in a way. So the launch passes that are available on OpenSea are available on secondary market. So that means that we sold out are 1969, and now those people that own those are reselling on secondary, which is a really common turnover with NFTs, like daily, right? People
Yeah.
sell, and it's like stocks, right? Um, so yeah, you can purchase the launch passes on OpenSea. We will have another collection coming up in October as well, the Starborn collection. That one is connected to our project with NASA on the International Space Station and actually owning physical items on the space station and then having those returned to you when they come back to the space station, which is pretty cool. Um,
So
but
what is that? Just to jump on that, because I heard about Starborn. I think you tweeted something about it a few days ago. So is it a treasure hunt? So it's Starborn Treasure Hunt, right?
so the treasure hunt is just a fun activity that we are doing leading up to the mint. So the Starborn collection will be its own collection, but what we've done is we've created a character and a narrative and a little bit of a world in and around one particular Starborn character set in the future. So it really follows the same narrative as the art in the collection, but we decided it would be a really fun way to, you know, lead up to the mint throughout the fall. So that was just kind of a passion project that we decided, you know what, this sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. It allows us to really bring on partner communities to have, their NFTs advertise, their communities involved. It's just a really fun way to grow the community before Starborn. So it's just a big event we're doing.
And who came up with that idea? Was that yourself? Because you seem to be the sort of chief storyteller.
Yeah, that was me.
Amazing.
Yep. It has been a blast. I obviously have, a team working with me on the initiative, and they're all doing a fantastic job. We're just all really excited, I think, to have a bit of a maybe an escape, like a little bit of a fictional escape, a little bit of a getaway, something fun and different and new for people to sort of get lost in. And there's some very real prizes, let me tell you. So there's going to be weekly, as the clues are dropped, the first people to solve those clues will get NFT prizes. And then the 10th week, if you've followed along and you've done all 9 weeks previous, the 10th week you will be admitted into our metaverse, which is in beta testing mode. So we have a moon port and a moonscape. We're going to have a metaverse treasure hunt for those participants for 10K grand prize in NFTs.
That sounds really exciting. Um, it's funny how so many people in the space industry are very technical, but thinking about the sort of people that are going to be transferring NFTs, going into the metaverse, it does need quite a lot of education. Do you mentioned that you help some Space Plus customers, acquire and get on boards, that sort of thing. But do you think part of your role is, as Space Plus, is sort of educating the space industry on the benefits of crypto? Because I can't think of anyone else that's sort of in that space, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of it is onboarding. It's new. I think the context that crypto and NFTs has been spoken about in the past is not really conducive to academic sort of um, communities. Traditionally, aerospace communities probably don't engage a lot with crypto, but that is shifting in a large way. And I think part of that is the draw of strong communities. It's really a massive networking tool. I think partly that is, as you say, the technologically savvy people within aerospace, which is many of them. They see the benefits of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology for the future of space exploration. I mean, we are undergoing some pretty incredible advances in aerospace, particularly within the private sector, driving it forward. But when you think about living off Earth, when you think about spending time, if you're orbiting the moon for 2 weeks, what are you going to do?
What's
Like, sorry.
Yeah, I agree. No, I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on thinking about a future in, say, 50, 100 years, we have a presence on the moon, uh, a Mars base, and various space stations. Because it's always been the assumption up until now that there won't be any currency required because, you have a finite amount of stuff on the ship and everyone has roles and responsibilities and you don't need to buy or sell anything. But as living and working in space becomes a reality, do you think that cryptocurrency is going to be the sort of real utility for currency in space because it's, I don't know, like moon credits or a sort of space-based currency that is not against the dollar, but is it's kind of like a finite amount of, like NFTs. There's X amount of value, monetary value on a ship, and then that's sort of passed around in exchange for services. So do you think I don't know if you've given any thought to that, but in the future, do you think we will exchange and buy goods and services in space using cryptocurrency?
Yes, and that is actually where the inception for Space Plus came about. There was the recognition within Uplift Aerospace that to have commerce in space and to have, you know, the ability to have marketplaces and culture in space, the ability to buy and sell goods in space. I don't think it would ever be just a bartering system or currency-less. If you have a significant amount of people up there has to be a way to verify transparently assets. And currently, the only technology that really does that is cryptocurrency based on blockchain technology. Um, Through blockchain technology, you have a transparent digital ledger that does not expire. It goes on forever. You can see the ownership of an asset forever since since it was established on the blockchain. So yes, absolutely. That is where we see things going. That is how Space Plus came about. The added benefit, really, I think cryptocurrency has its own utility for commerce and culture in space, but the added benefit, specifically through NFTs, is that they facilitate amazing community
Mm,
dynamic and social infrastructure because commerce in space is not sustainable unless you have social infrastructure, community buy-in, and even people that keep their feet on the ground having a say and participating in space. Um, and this technology does that really well, whether you're interacting with someone through the metaverse, whether you're exchanging goods and services between Earth and space, which is very much possible with NFTs. Um, Traditionally, owning an asset in space and transferring ownership would take months to maybe years and tons of legal paperwork. But we can now actually put that on the blockchain and have a transfer of ownership that happens in a minute, which is exactly what our next NFT collection is based on. We will have physical assets in space on the International Space Station, and we will facilitate their ownership through NFTs. And you can own something that goes over your head every 90 minutes. And then you can trade that with someone else or sell that in minutes, which just is a concept that has never been done
yeah,
before.
it's pretty mind-boggling, and it's sort of making it real, and um, that sort of synergy between a physical object and a digital object, symbiotic, I should say, is quite compelling. So you're obviously doing the Space Plus 5 astronaut training. Um, uh, what is there much involved in that? I see that there's a lot of hype being built about it, but are they physically training for this, or does that happen when you get a couple of months out? Because obviously they're space tourists. I mean, they are astronauts. I definitely think they are astronauts, but is there much training involved, or is it mainly around the sort of the media strategy and marketing strategy that has to go along with it? Because they obviously need to you know promote the Space Plus and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we are undergoing a little bit more of a rigorous training regime than you would see for an average space tourist. One of the phenomenal things about the private sector in aerospace and the increase in access to suborbital space flights is that they are incredibly accessible. You don't have to have strenuous physical limitations put on the astronauts in that way. We are very much focusing our training on having the Space Plus 5 come in and facilitating community involvement. There's actually a lot of team training, crew training. The announcement that we're going to make at Yuri's Night will make it a little bit more clear the extent to which we're going. But essentially, through the astronaut class, we have pillars of science, art, and philanthropy that we believe very strongly need to be integrated into a cultural movement that provides greater access and diversity to space. So it is very much about communicating the importance of diversity in space and access to space. It is about having a human conversation about what it means to go to space and why space is important, and doing training that aligns with those communication skills, preparation for the overview effect and how to communicate that when you come back to Earth. So a very holistic approach to how do we get the conversation started about why space is important to people that otherwise don't interact with it too much.
Yeah.
And what does it mean to go forward with humanity in space along the lines of science, art, and philanthropy? We believe really strongly that storytellers need to go to space, artists need to go to space. Some of the best storytellers that can communicate the importance of space and the life change or the perspective shift that happens when you go to space are artists. And there have not been very many artists that have gone to space traditionally. And so we're really looking to change that. So it's really about creating a cultural movement. It's about preparing people to become storytellers for space. But we also have some very real science and research initiatives that we're going to be announcing. And we have signed the MOU, so I'm going to say this, but we haven't put out the press release yet. But we do have a philanthropic partner that is going to be coming on board, that we're really excited to work with. We're going to be working with Astro Access for the duration of the astronaut training. So they will all undergo zero gravity training. Then they will do spacesuit and spacecraft egress training at the University of Arizona in the Biosphere 2. And we will also be doing some crew and teamwork training with the astronaut class as well.
That sounds so cool. I'm very jealous of all those guys, to be honest. And how do you engage with the rest of the community? So the other 1964 members, do they get opportunities for things like zero G flights and to go for to see artworks in the biosphere and that kind of thing? Do they still have opportunity to be involved in a physical sense?
Yes, yeah, and this is also circling back around to your question about like launches and stuff. We will have community members that are able to come to that. Of course, we can't have all 1,000 people come out, but we will have 10 seats for different events or what have you that are then raffled off to the community for people that are interested in going. So that includes launches. We've already sent 3 community members on a zero gravity flight, which is very exciting. And more opportunities for zero gravity flights are going to be available. I can't say on what date, but stay tuned. Launches, yes, to the biosphere and training as well. So we believe really strongly that we want to make sure that we provide access to all of our community members. Those that are interested in coming out. Of course, we can't do that all at once, and they're going to be, in line with all of our in-person events. We'll have community members present at all of them, and for those that can't attend in person, we will have virtual integrations through the metaverse, where say they have access to a certain part of the astronaut training. Yeah.
That sounds really good, really good. I've always liked the idea of because I'm lucky enough to have been to a physical launch, sort of see a SpaceX launch and the booster landing back on the launch pad, which was really breathtaking. But I always thought it'd be a cool idea to bring physical launches into the digital world. So you put on a headset, maybe wearing a haptic suit so you can sort of feel the vibrations of the launch. I think that would be a great way of, you know, potentially exponentially, opening up, being able to look and feel, and a real launch would be really cool. But look, I love everything Space Plus is doing. Just before you go, I was wondering if you had any, or if you could say anything else about the long-term vision for Space Plus. As NASA are going back to the moon and onto Mars, and private companies trying to, reach further out into the cosmos to go to Mars. How, in your business plan, what's the kind of end goal? Is there an end goal? Apart from the democratizing access to space, is there a kind of wild, mission that would be like the ultimate dream for Space Plus?
Well, our long-term goal right now, and this is just like within the next 5 years, is a lunar mission, and heavily involving our community in a lunar mission. Beyond that, absolutely additional off-Earth manufacturing, as well as maybe expeditions in the short term, like year, 2 year, 3 years. We absolutely plan on having additional astronaut classes. This is not a once-off or a one-off. We really believe that having regular astronaut classes, just like any space program, regular astronaut classes with their own mission directives, their own research objectives aligned with industry partners. So that is absolutely going to continue throughout the next few years, with the long-term goal of a community-led lunar mission. Which I mean is pretty wild. I know that with all the talk about Mars lately, people are like, "Oh, the moon's so close," but like, it's fantastic. The moon is great. Beyond 5 years, I mean, we will go where the industry takes us.
Fantastic. That's very sensible. And you can be one of the only sort of crypto startups to say "to the moon" without being too cringe, which is excellent. So congratulations on all your success to date, and I look forward to seeing and hearing from you guys in Paris. I'll be there at Yuri's night, and thank you so much for your time, Emily.
Thank you so much, Ben. It was great to meet you this morning.